Homestead Act. We're going to talk about how you qualify for a property as a homestead, what those specifications are. One of the big things that is important with this is making sure you know whether or not a property is homesteaded to see whose signatures you're going to need on listing agreements and purchase and sale contracts, because if we don't get the appropriate amount of signatures, that will void our contract for lack of a legal purpose. So we're going to talk about that as well. Homestead is something extremely important. That's why it's covered in the pre-licensing course, because this is not just something, it's not one of those topics. There's a few topics that if you get into, you only see this concept if you get into a certain type of real estate. Like one of the topics in the course is business brokerage, and look, if you're not selling businesses, then you're never going to need that business brokerage knowledge. But with homestead, whether you own a home or you're helping people purchase their homes, you want to know about the Homestead Act. And since residential real estate makes up such a large span of the real estate market, that's why this is so very important to really understand. So first and foremost, let's talk about qualifying for a homestead. How do you qualify for homestead? And just to give you a little background too, because we had a question, that's what actually stemmed from this whole episode, a question from one of our students in the online course, and they were just looking for some further clarification about homestead. Well, what is the homestead? Just simply, what is the homestead? Is it a noun? Is it a verb? And so the Homestead Act is a set of laws. Now, when we refer to the word as homestead, how to qualify for a homestead, we're talking really specifically just about a home. That's really what we're referring to. These are laws, a set of laws. The Homestead Act is a set of laws that protect your home, your primary residence that you call your home in Florida. So these set of laws are there to protect your home. There's certain provisions to protect the old homestead. Because, people back in the day when they made these laws, they didn't say, this is our home. They said, this is our homestead. And today we just call it a home because there's no extra need for that other word of stead at the end. But that's really what it refers to. So a homestead is your home, and the Homestead Act are the laws that exist to protect your home ownership. So for qualifying for a homestead, first thing, you've got to live in property on January 1st. So what that means, if you purchase a property in Florida after January 1st, even if this is going to be your home, you're not going to be able to qualify for homestead that year. It's not that you miss out on homestead altogether. It's just that current year. So let's say you just bought a property. And here we are in 2018. So you just purchased a property in July 2018. And the current tax bill that you're going to end up paying, because taxes become payable on November 1st. So the tax bill for the property would be assessed on January 1st. We buy it in July. That means that we're going to have to pay the previous owner's tax bill. The tax bill is always calculated on January 1st, which is why if we want to qualify for homestead, we have to live in the property on January 1st. So if we bought it this year in July 2018, we wouldn't get homestead exemption for 2018. But as long as we're still living there at the property and it's still our home, it's still our primary residence, then January 1st of 2019, we're eligible to claim homestead on that property. So that's first thing. You've got to live there on January 1st. But now you have a very limited window to apply for homestead. And that is March 1st. So this is our window here, January 1st to March 1st. That is your window to file for the homestead exemption. And we haven't talked about the benefits of the homestead exemption yet, but it's something that you'll be kicking yourself if you miss that window. You'll be kicking yourself if you don't take advantage of the benefits that exist in homestead. It's just a simple form it is that you've got to fill out to file your property as your homestead and get the tax benefits, to get the protection benefits, and everything else that the Homestead Act has to offer. So that's our window. Now, a quick kind of note away from the technical side, maybe getting more into the state of real estate business growth stuff. If you guys don't know what State of Real Estate is, it's our show on Wednesdays at 12 noon. If you're not watching it yet, you need to be watching it because this is the topics that help you make money in real estate. And let's talk about that real quick because we're always about making money here, even if it is on Ask the Instructor. So let's say that we helped a client purchase a property this month here in July. So we helped them purchase a property. Now, it's up to them to file for homestead within this window. They might forget. Probably will forget. They probably won't know what it is that they're even missing. So what can we do as their real estate professional? And if your answer is, well, nothing, we already made commission on them, we're done with them, we're never talking to them again, you're wrong. You're not doing anything illegal. You don't have no legal obligation to make sure they file for homestead. That's not our job, but our job is to grow our business. And a great way to grow our business is to follow up with past clients. If we take this opportunity to make sure we're reminding them, hey, hope you're still enjoying the home. By the way, you're eligible for homestead this year. If they're a first-time home buyer, they might not even know what homestead is. So this is where we come in there to educate them. Hey, hope you're still enjoying the home. We contact them maybe that first week of January. Hey, Happy New Year. You guys still enjoying the home? Oh, yes, it's great. We just had a fantastic New Year's party. Everybody loved the house, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that is so fantastic. I just wanted to remind you that this year you're eligible for homestead. So you need to make sure you apply for that by March 1st. Otherwise, you'll lose out on the benefits that apply with homestead. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for reminding me. Hey, no problem. It's what I do. It's my job. You're my client for the lifetime. For as long as you need real estate, I'm your guy. I'm your girl. And by the way, do you have anybody else you want to share me with? Is there any friends or family you said that you met at that party you were throwing that want to purchase a property? You've got a major follow-up opportunity here. Because a lot of times people will ask me and say, well, John, how do I follow up? How do I stay in touch with a client after I sold them? What kind of things do I talk about with them? What is it important? Why should I just pick up the phone and call them? Isn't that kind of weird? No. You've got to have these reasons to call them. And this is... they're going to be mad at you if you don't tell them about the homestead. They're going to think you're the worst real estate professional in the world if you don't do this. So by taking those few minutes to remind them to file for the homestead, you could probably pick up a couple referrals because they're going to be so grateful. Now, they might not know what the homestead is, so you might want to kind of go into that. If you didn't talk about the homestead, hey, it's John, your realtor, helped you buy the house, and hopefully they still remember who you are. If they're buying the home in July, you probably want to stay in touch with them a couple of times before January for that January opportunity so they remember who it is that you are. Hey, it's John Christmas, your realtor that helped you purchase the house. You might not even need to make that introduction if you're doing a good job following up, but either way, hey, John Chrismo, realtor that helped you purchase your house. How's it going? I just want to touch base with you guys real quick. Is now a good time to talk? Oh, yeah, I've got a couple minutes. Great. Oh, how are you guys enjoying the house? Oh, it's fantastic, blah, 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 blah. Hey, look, well, the reason for my call today, look, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just wanted to remind you guys about the Homestead Act. And do you remember me telling you about the Homestead Act? No. What was that again? So this is just a simple form you're going to have to fill out to file, and it's going to get you $50,000 of exemption off your property taxes. What? $50,000 worth of exemption? I'm so glad you called. I'm so glad you reminded me. Oh, and there's even more protections that are there, all kinds of things. And look, I could go on telling you how great this thing is, but you need to make sure you file for it by March 1st. Oh my God, thank you so much for calling me. Hey, you know what? My clients are my clients for their life. And by the way, do you have anyone you want to share me with? Is there anyone you met at that party that's thinking of buying a house that's maybe needing to sell? Because I'd love to share the same level of helpfulness that I've been for you with them as well. Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me talk to my friend here. I'll give you his phone number. Perfect. Boom. We just got a lead. Cost us $0 to get that lead. It just cost us a few minutes of our time to follow up with our clients. So make it a goal of you for all of your sales for 2018. Make sure you're keeping track of these people's contact information and make sure you're still staying in touch with them. Send out little things here and there, just little text messages. Happy Labor Day, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, all these, Happy Halloween, Happy Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for great clients like you. All these opportunities that we have to stay in touch with past clients. So that way when we're calling them there, they already know how great we are. We're just really shining in this moment and trying to pick up some referrals. And it's a win-win. We help save our clients money by them saving money on their tax bill, and we get clients because we have an opportunity to collect referrals. So this is so huge. This is so important. Make sure you're utilizing this. Keep track of all your sales you're doing right now, because in January, set yourself a reminder. Spend a few hours to go through all of your sales that you had for this year. And then after you contact them, then you maybe contact some of your potentials. Hey, I was just going through and calling my list of all my clients from last year, reminding them to file for the homestead exemption that they're getting there, or they're saving all these thousands of dollars off of their tax bill because of that. How soon are you guys ready to look into purchase with that there? I'd love to get these savings up for you guys as well. That's a great line to have when you're talking to maybe somebody that's been renting, that's been thinking about purchasing, because they're not getting any tax benefits with that right now. So we'll take a sidebar from that, because I just wanted to drop that in there. It's not really having to deal with the technical aspect of the Homestead Act, but this is how you use this law in your business to grow your business, to get more business, to help your clients and make more money in the process. And it's the best part, because they're paying you zero for this help. They're paying you nothing. It doesn't cost them anything for this help, but your payment isn't in money being paid for you reminding them to file for homestead. It's getting referrals, which is more than what they could ever pay you. Just one person them sending it to you, that's potentially thousands of dollars of commission money. So let's take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive more into homestead. We're going to talk about what size of property will qualify for homestead. So if you've got somebody that's looking for a larger property, you've got to be careful, because sometimes if the property is too large, you're not going to be able to qualify for homestead if the property is too large. So we're going to talk about that, as well as some of the other restrictions on the homestead, as well as the benefits that are associated. We're going to do some tax calculations on that. We're going to talk about the Save Our Home Amendment. We've got so much stuff to talk about with the homestead, so stick with us. I'm John Christopher. You're watching Ask the Instructor. If you've been thinking about real estate, look, in this current market, it's hard not to. There's so many opportunities that exist out there for residential real estate, commercial real estate, business brokerage, property management. I mean, it's ridiculous how much opportunity lies from having a real estate license. So look, if you've been thinking about getting a real estate license, I mean, it's minimal cost compared to starting other careers and starting other businesses to get into this. So I urge you to check it out and give it a try. I mean, even if you're just using your license for personal use, you've got huge, immense benefits there. Go to this link. It's licensefl.com. That's licensefl.com. Put that link in the description. It's got your step-by-step guide to get a Florida real estate license. And look, check it out. Give us a call. We're here to answer any questions it is that you have, and go out there and make some money.
Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com. Did you know that statewide only about 50% of test takers pass their state exam on the first try? At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we've broken down passing the class and state exams into 4 simple steps: learning the information, reinforcing the information, testing your knowledge, and being confident and prepared. View the details of the full strategy at passfirsttry.com. That's passfirsttry.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to help you understand the technical side of the real estate industry. And a lot of times, we're talking about topics that don't show up in your everyday business. There's certain things, maybe if you don't deal with investors, you're not really going to be dealing with investment value. Maybe you don't deal with businesses, you're not going to be dealing with business brokerage stuff. But with homestead, whether it's you owning the property or somebody else owning the property, there's immense benefits in the state of Florida. Now, a lot of other states have a Homestead Act and have a set of laws basically that protect your home, your primary residence. But I would argue that Florida has one of the strongest homestead acts out there. I wouldn't even argue it. I would state that as fact. It is one of the strongest homestead acts out there. There's immense protections for homeowners in Florida that other states don't have. So we've been talking about the requirements. When you have to file for it, so Herc Morrison asked a question on here. His question was, can we still get homestead after January 1st? If we buy the property, let's say in July, can we qualify for homestead? Not for this year, but for the following year, the answer is yes. So the current year, the tax bill, just to kind of talk a little bit about property taxes, because that's one of the benefits with this that is the most impactful for people. There's a lot of other benefits that go along with this, but the one that you could claim year after year, this big benefit, is the property tax savings. So taxes are assessed on January 1st in Florida. So January 1st, they assess the taxes, they put a lien against the property. The tax year is just simply until December 31st. So it's just a regular calendar year for property taxes. Now, taxes can't be paid until November 1st. So the 2018 tax bill, the property tax assessment that was established on January 1st, these taxes aren't going to be able to be paid until November 1st. So you purchasing a property in July, you're going to be paying the taxes that were assessed on based on whoever owned it on January 1st. And maybe they have homestead, maybe they don't have homestead, who knows? They're going to be in the same boat when they're purchasing property. They're going to be paying whoever their taxes were, and the taxes will maybe sometimes go down. A lot of times they end up going up, and a lot of that, almost always, the change of this is due to changes in the homestead. Not just in the generic homestead exemption you get, but also the Save Our Home Amendment to the Homestead Act, which we're going to talk about that one as well. So that's your time frames you have to qualify for the homestead. Now, the other thing I want to mention with this is lot size. So the property size, the size of the lot, is a restricted item in the Homestead Act. That's a restricted variable that you have to be within a certain size in order to qualify for homestead. So two cutoffs for this, and the cutoffs depend on whether you're inside of a city or whether you're outside of a city, or what the law refers to as a municipality. So anytime there's some sort of local municipality, some town, some city or anything like that, when you're within those limits, you're within the limits of that municipality. So that term municipality just means some sort of form of local government like a city. So within, your cutoff is going to be half an acre. So within, that's half of an acre. Outside, it's actually all the way up to 160 acres. So if you have a client that is looking to purchase a property for their home, they're looking to purchase a property for their home, but they want a large lot. If they want even just something maybe just as simple as an acre of land, or maybe 3/4 of an acre even, they just want a pretty good sized lot. If that's the case, if they purchase anything more than a half acre inside city limits within some sort of municipality, they're not going to be able to qualify that property as a homestead. Very important that we know this here, because there's a lot of benefits that go along with the Homestead Act, and you don't qualify for them if the property is over a half acre, if it's within a municipality. So for that client that is looking for a larger property, that's where they're going to have to look outside of a city, outside city limits, not within a local municipality, and then they could have as large as 160 acres. So that's the key there. They've got to make sure they stay within these size restrictions. There are no dollar restrictions. There's no dollar restrictions. So that means this could be $1 million property within this half acre. As long as it's less than 1/2 acre, it could be a $100 million property for all that matters. As long as that's within a half acre, then it'll still qualify for homestead. Same thing for outside. There's no dollar limit. There's size limits, and this is actually pretty smart with the way they wrote this law. The reason why is land is finite. I mean, and maybe we could kind of dredge up some extra like sand from the bottom of the sea and build out a little bit of extra land, but they stopped doing that in the 70s because they deemed it too impactful and hurtful to the marine ecosystem. So our land is finite in Florida. We only have so much of it. So the land is finite. That's why these numbers can be finite. Dollars, there's inflation that goes on and changes in the money supply that changes the value of a dollar. So this law would be very quickly outdated if it was based on dollar restrictions. And now a lot of other states do have dollar restrictions. Once a property is above a certain amount, it won't qualify for homestead. Not in Florida. Florida just has a size restriction, a restriction on the size of the lots. So as long as you stay within that size, as long as they don't change the Homestead Act, which they're not changing, there's no talks of changing, it's been this way since its inception. As long as you stay in that size, you're able to claim a homestead. Now, let's talk about with this within a half acre. So you might remember from your course of 43,560 being the square feet in an acre. And we're just going to multiply that by 0.5 to get half of that. And I believe it is like 21, let's see, forget the full number for it. 43,560 times 0.5. Yeah, so 21,780. 21,780 square feet. So this is a half of an acre. That's the number it is that we need to stay within if we're going to be purchasing a property in a city in order to qualify for a homestead. And this is how you're typically seeing lot sizes expressed in the MLS system. Unless you're dealing with a property that is very large, where it's in, tens or hundreds of acres, maybe even just a couple acres even, but you're pretty much always going to see a lot size that's in there. So you're buying 10,000 square foot lots, that's fine. That's a pretty common size, 10,000 square feet for lot size. Maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit larger, but occasionally you do come across lots that are within a city that are at over 21,780 square feet. So if the lot size is over that size, it will not qualify for a homestead. This is super important because this is one of the very easy ways to disqualify yourself from homestead. Another requirement, and we're almost done with these requirements here. So just a recap of this, we've got to live in the property on January 1st. If we're buying it, let's say any other time than January 1st, we'll just have to wait until next year to qualify for homestead. We have to apply for the homestead exemption by March 1st. So if we don't apply by March 1st, we miss our window. So we've got to make sure we take advantage of this by applying by March 1st. Remember, I'm going to write that in right up here to follow up. Stay in touch with your past clients. Use this as a perfect example, a perfect reason to not only send them a letter, but also give them a personal call. This is one of the things that absolutely warrants a call because we're calling, no obligation to them. We're just saving them money and picking up some referrals in the process. So it's a win-win for both of us. So always follow up with that. Again, lot size. If we're within any sort of municipality, we're within a city or anything like that, we've got to keep it under a half acre or 21,780 square feet. If we're outside of a city, extremely large property, this happens to be quarter of a section if you're getting into the government survey stuff here. You probably don't get as excited about those coincidences as me. 160 acres if it's outside of city limits. So if it's outside of municipality, it could be up to 160 acres. Remember, there's no dollar restrictions. These properties could be worth $10,000 or $100 million. That does not change its eligibility for homestead. What does change its eligibility, though, is the size of the lot. And then the last requirement that we have for the homestead is that you could only have one. So only one homestead you're allowed to claim. You get one home. You could purchase a second home, you could purchase a third home, you could purchase investment properties, but you will not get these homestead protections and benefits that we're about to cover. So that's how you qualify for homestead. That's what's required. That's what you have to stay within. We're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're now going to talk about the benefits of homestead. We're going to talk about the non-tax benefits, because there's benefits other than just against your property taxes that'll save your home. And then we also have the tax benefits as well as the Save Our Home Amendment. So we're going to talk about that for the second half of the show. Stick with us. I'm John Chrismore. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, so if you're thinking about starting a real estate career, it could feel a little overwhelming sometimes. Look, that's completely understandable. That's why we're here to help. If you haven't already, check out our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success, or if you don't even know where to begin, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that we can. Our phone number is 813-928-0106. Again, that's 813-928-0106. Give us a call. We're the Tampa School of Real Estate.
Do you want a career that allows you to be in control? With a career in real estate, you'll get to call the shots. Whether you're looking at starting part-time or want to become the next top agent, a career in real estate makes it possible. Find out what it takes at tampaschool.com. Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com.
Are you thinking about a career in real estate? Hey, I'm John Chrisma with the Tampa School of Real Estate, and we've helped thousands of people just like you obtain their real estate license. If you're thinking about a career in real estate, give us a call. The phone number is 813-928-0106. Our advisors are standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way they can. Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time at the Tampa School of Real Estate. We come to you live to help you mastermind to understand the technical side of the real estate industry. Today we're talking about homestead. We've been talking about the Homestead Act requirements so far, but now let's switch gears. So we talked about how to get homestead, what it is that you've got to maintain, and this is extremely important information if you're working with residential purchasers, people that are looking to purchase a property as their home, to make sure that this homestead coverage will apply, because they're not going to want to miss out on this savings here. Most properties will fall within the confines of the restrictions of the Homestead Act, which it's primarily just making sure it's within a half acre if it's within a municipality, or if it's outside a municipality under 160 acres. So most properties will qualify, but you want to be aware of that in case somebody is looking for a larger property. That's where you've got to see if they'll still be able to qualify inside of a city, or if they'll have to purchase something outside of a city instead. So let's talk about the benefits. So, first one that I want to talk about, and this is something that is really unique to Florida. It's unlimited protection from forced sale for personal debts. Now, this is a little bit of an oversimplification of what I've got up here. Unlimited protection from forced sale for personal debts. So why this is a little bit of an oversimplification is because of what types of debts this does apply against. But with your homestead, there's a lot of protections that are there. Let's just talk quickly just so you get an idea of what it's not going to cover. You don't pay your property taxes. Doesn't matter whether your property is homesteaded or not. You're going to be in trouble. You're going to lose the property if you don't get those property taxes paid. You fall behind on your mortgage payment, and the mortgage company is going to foreclose on you. Doesn't matter whether your property is homesteaded or not, they're going to foreclose against your property. So these liens, these specific liens that go directly against the property itself. There's the categories of specific liens versus general liens. Specific liens apply directly to the property itself. And mortgages, property taxes, other types of specific liens, these can force the sale of a homesteaded property. Now for general liens are liens that apply against a person rather than against directly a property itself. So what that means is things like a lawsuit. If you get sued and there's a judgment lien issued against you, they can't use that judgment lien to force the sale of your homesteaded property. Maybe for a second home, maybe for investment property, maybe something like that, but for a homesteaded property, it's protected. And one of the things that's unique with Florida is that this is unlimited protection. This is unlimited, meaning this could be $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of a judgment lien against you, or maybe credit card debt or something like that. You have unlimited protection under the Homestead Act. Now, that doesn't mean don't pay your bills, because, there's still other ways they could come after you. They just can't force the sale of your home. Now, with the Homestead Act, this is specifically applying to the property itself, but there is an additional protection for personal property. So the personal property protection, it does not apply to all your personal property. And that word personal property, that phrasing personal property, that refers to anything it is you could pick up and move: a phone, a water bottle, a table, a laptop, a TV, a bed, a dresser, any sort of furniture. Anything that's movable is considered personal property. And there is a small amount of personal property protection, but it is limited just to $1,000. So what that means, if you don't pay those credit card bills, or there's a judgment lien against you that you're not paying, or whatever the case may be, yes, your property, your actual real property, the real estate is protected, but the personal property does only protect you up to $1,000. So in the event that one of these does happen to you, yes, they can't sell the home, they can't force the sale of the home, but for personal property, they can, except for $1,000. So I don't know, maybe some family heirlooms you'd be able to kind of squirrel away and not make them sell. Maybe a bed to sleep in, or at least a mattress or something like that. $1,000 doesn't go very far, but it's better than having no protection whatsoever. And hopefully you don't ever find yourself in these situations, but I don't know, maybe you get some frivolous lawsuit brought against you. It happens. And that's why there's a lot of celebrities and people that are very wealthy that own properties in Florida because of this protection from forced sale. What that means is, let's say we've got some sort of celebrity, they get sued for $10 million. They get a lawsuit against them for $10 million. Well, if they've got all their money tied up in their homesteaded property, this could be some massive estate, as long as it's outside city limits, because remember, if we're going to go over a half acre, we have to be outside city limits. So maybe they've got this massive estate that's worth $500 million, and they've got this $10 million lawsuit and they're refusing to pay it. They can't force the sale of that homesteaded property. So this is an immense protection to make sure somebody doesn't take your home from you. Now, there are other ways that the property can be forced sale. Again, the mortgages, the property taxes, those types of things, but for personal debts. And if you're trying to test this theory out, don't just go off the information I'm giving you here. For this to really make sure this goes according to the theory here, make sure you're contacting an attorney and all that stuff. This is not any sort of legal advice. This is just the basic theoretical side of the law. So contact your attorneys for legal advice, but hopefully you'll never have to deal with this stuff here. But it's nice to have these protections in place should that arise, should we need to hire an attorney to make sure they defend these protections of the Homestead Act. Another one is protection of the family. So what this means is that even if we have a property in only one spouse's name, so let's say there's two spouses, but the property is only in one of their spouses, and only in one of their names, and only one of the spouse's names, and the property was purchased before they were married, because if you purchase property after you're married in Florida, it's automatically what's called a tenancy by the entireties. And a tenancy by the entireties means basically that your spouse, your husband, your wife, your partner, they have survivorship rights, meaning that if they live longer than you, they automatically get the property. That's a tenancy by the entireties, and that's created whenever you're purchasing a property after you're married. Even if it is only in one of your names, it's automatically a tenancy by the entireties. This is something absolutely covered in the course that applies with everyone that's married purchasing property. So that's one thing. And what that means with us, we'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about with the homestead. So now, if it's after you're married, it's automatically tenancy by the entireties. Whether this is your home or not, any property it is that you own is automatically tenancy by the entireties. But let's say the property was purchased before the marriage. If the property was purchased before the marriage and it is only in one of the spouse's names, that would actually be separate property. unless the property is homesteaded. Because that's where we have our protection in the family that kicks in. Because if the property is homesteaded, if your spouse also claims that property as their homestead, they have ownership rights to the property. Now, what that means for us, I alluded to that a couple seconds ago. What that means for us is we need signatures of all the owners. We need signatures of all the owners. If we do not have the signatures of all of the owners of the property, that will invalidate and void our contracts due to lack of a legal purpose. Because is it legal for somebody to sell a property when there's another owner? No. You need both owners to agree to the sale of a property in order to have a legal sale. It's not legal for somebody to just go out and sell somebody else's property without their consent, without their knowledge, without their agreement. So in order to sell a property, if it's homesteaded or if it's a tenancy by the entireties, you need the signature of all the owners, which typically means both spouses will need to sign. Not only your listing agreement, make sure you do that, because that's a real easy way to make your listing agreement void, where they might not have to pay you a commission. So be careful with that. Again, this is the theoretical side of the law, and in the real world, this is where the attorneys get involved defending that law and enforcing the law and so on and so forth. We don't want to go there. We just get all the signatures, so it's nice and easy up front. We've got prima facie evidence that everyone agreed to this. But it does have to be all the owners, not just on our listing agreements, but also our purchase and sale agreements. Any owners on the property need to sign these contracts because they are not legally enforceable unless they have the signatures of all the owners. And this does not just go for your purchase and sale agreement, but all the addendums, all the disclosures that have to go along with this, those also are going to need both signatures. That's why on basically every real estate contract we have, there's multiple lines for signatures. And if there's not multiple lines for signatures, there should be multiple lines for signatures, because every document about conveying the ownership or anything of the property whatsoever needs to have all of the owners sign off on that. So this protection of the family, it provides a great protection to your spouse should, in the event you meet your untimely death or timely death, however that may be, that they get right of survivorship, so they automatically inherit the property. But if you're trying to sell the property without your spouse's consent, if this is a homestead, if this is a tenancy by the entireties, you're not going to be able to do that. You need to have both the signatures. And even if you have both spouses on the same page, even if it is only in one of their names, if it's a homestead or if it's a tenancy by the entireties, you're going to need both signatures. And this is how we also end up with title defects as well. If deeds need to be signed off by all of the owners, and if some title company or attorney or whoever handled the deeds so far back in the chain of title, if one of those deeds doesn't include the names of both the owners and the signatures of both the owners on there, that'll invalidate that transfer of the deed, and there'll be no ownership transfer because it's not legal to transfer something it is that you don't own 100%. So you need consent of all of the owners. So that's why this is extremely important. This does cause quite a few title defects when this is not done appropriately and accordingly. Even in 2018, with as much information as we have out there in the public records, there's always that opportunity that something gets missed, that there's some issue, that there's some problem with the title. And that's why we always recommend to purchase title insurance. It's a few $1,000s to protect a multi-$100,000 investment. So it's extremely important that title insurance is purchased. It's not required by law. The law says you don't have to purchase title insurance, but it's extremely, highly, absolutely recommended, and to put it frankly, stupid if you don't purchase title insurance. So title insurance should be had on all properties because there can be these issues in the title due to the way the law is written. So that's the protection of the family. So if you take anything away from that, and this is so real world for almost any transaction you're dealing with, if you're dealing in residential real estate, you need all the signatures of all the owners, which probably 9 times out of 10 will include the spouse, even if they're not listed on the deed. Even if they're not on the mortgage, you're going to need both of the signatures if the property's homesteaded or if it's a tenancy by the entireties. Now, last benefit it is that we have are the tax benefits. So there's 2 sets of exemptions, which we're going to get into doing that next with the math. So we get exemption from taxation if we're within these confines. And there's also what's called the Save Our Home Amendment, which this was something that was added to the Homestead Act that made it so your taxes don't excessively increase. And this is the thing that when you're purchasing a property and somebody had lived in that property for a while before you, there could be a significant increase in taxes due to the Save Our Home Amendment artificially keeping those taxes lower than what they should be. So we're going to talk about both those things. We're going to do some calculations on the tax benefit as well as understand the Save Our Home Amendment. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break, so stick with us. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
Have you seen what's going on in Tampa?
If you're looking to get in on the real estate action that's going on in Tampa right now, we're who you need to talk to. We can help you get your real estate license, start your real estate career. We're here to assist you for the life of your real estate career. Give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106, or check us out online at tampaschool.com. Have you been thinking about starting a career in real estate? Enjoy an entrepreneurial lifestyle that allows for schedule flexibility with unlimited income potential. In real estate, the sky is the limit, and what you put in is what you get out. Learn more about a career in real estate at tampaschool.com. Have you completed your FREC required post-licensing course? There's still time before your next renewal. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, our classroom and online courses will meet your FREC requirement and teach you real-world information applicable to your business. Learn more and enroll today at postflorida.com. That's postflorida.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode. Man, my hair is not cooperating today, of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Chrismo. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to help you understand the technical side of the real estate industry. So far, we talked about the requirements of the Homestead Act. We just covered the benefits of the Homestead Act, but now we need to get a little bit in more detail of the benefits that apply with taxes, because these can be a little bit tricky to figure out. But look, I'm going to give you the simple method that makes this super easy. And just full disclosure, I mean, depending on who your taxing authority, but I know here in Hillsborough County, as well as pretty much every county it is that I've encountered, looking at the tax bills, that they do this a little bit differently. They lay it out a little bit differently, but it ultimately sounds confusing. So for calculating the homestead exemption benefit and what your taxes are after the homestead exemption, try not to think of your actual tax bill it is that you get. I know we're always trying to compare the stuff to this. It does get a little bit more complicated than what we're about to cover here, which is if you're studying for your exams, this is how you typically see this on the exam. So this is going to be a little bit different than how you might be used to seeing this in your tax bill, but ultimately this is the easiest, quickest way to figure out what your homestead exemption dollar amount tax savings actually are, as well as what your tax bill is. So let's first figure out taxes due. So for taxes due, let's say that we've got a property, and we'll switch over here to the blue because it looks like this black's dying on us here. Hopefully the blue does better. So let's say we've got an assessed value of, we'll say $250,000. Just keep it nice, simple, round numbers here. So the property is assessed for $250,000. Now, the property, we'll say, is homesteaded. And the three millage rates that we're going to be dealing with are the city, the county, and the school board. And let's say here we've got 5.7 for the city, 7.9 for the county, and 8.5 for the school. And these are all what's called mills, which a mill basically is 1/10 of a cent. which is how these are all calculated out here. And we'll get into actually doing those in a minute. But let's now talk about how we're going to lay this out. So whenever it is that you're trying to find the taxes due of a homesteaded property, we're going to basically split this off into two separate sides here. We've got the city and county we're going to stick over here. And we've got the school board, which is going to go over here. So what we're doing is we're isolating the school board. The reason why we need to isolate the school board is because there is a different exemption amount for school board taxes. For your city and county, you get an exemption amount of $50,000 anytime the property exceeds $75,000. So anytime the property exceeds $75,000, you get an exemption of $50,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our assessed value here, the assessed value, which is $250,000. And again, that's called our assessed value. And what we're going to do now is subtract out our exemptions. So for the city and county, and you might say, well, where is that in the question? It won't be given to you in the question. It'll say that the property is homesteaded in the question, but on your exam, they'll expect you to remember what those homestead exemption amounts actually are. So it's $50,000 for the city and county. And there are some cases where you might end up with slightly more than $50,000. There's the $500 exemption, additional exemption if you're a widow, or if you're blind, or if you're totally and permanently disabled. And there's also a $5,000 exemption for veterans who are at least 10% disabled by military-connected misfortune. So we'll just keep it simple here and just say that, hey, you know, we're no special circumstances. If there were, let's say if this were a blind person, that would actually be $50,500 in exemption. If it were a blind widow, it would be $51,000 of exemption. So we just stack those right on top of the additional exemption here. And that would also apply with the school board as well. But basically our simple math here tells us that $200,000 is what's called taxable value. So $200,000, that would be our taxable value of the property. This is what we're actually going to get charged taxes on. Now, what are these taxes? So you've got to remember that over here, we're combining together the city and the county tax districts. We combine those together because we're trying to save work. We're trying to do this in a simpler, easier process. Yes, we could do one for city, one for county, one for school board, and do all three of these tax districts separately. Yes, that is possible. And you'll end up with the exact same right answer than if you were to combine these two here. It's just going to take you longer to do that, which longer is, especially when it gets you the same exact answer every time, not recommended. So let's just take the shortcut here. Let's go through this the quick, easy way. We're going to combine together the city and the county. So the city was 5.7 mils. The county is 7.9 mils. We combine these two millage rates together, and we should end up with, I'm just going to trust my calculator here because my mental math is never any good, 13.6. So we've got a millage rate here of 13.6 mils. Put this into your calculator is not keep that as just 13.6 because that's not about how many zeros that you add in here. It's about how many here for the school board, but there's one key difference. So we still start out with the $250,000 assessed value. Our assessed value doesn't for the school board, but our exemption amount does. The exemption for the school, but it adds up across all the properties, and it ultimately helps generate more money for school. Political reasoning of most of this one, even though the mills were only 8.5 versus over here was 13.6, it's still fairly close because we're dropping down that exemption amount. If we want to talk about the savings that we had here, again, we take that $25,000 and we multiply that again by 0.0085. We do that, and we end up with $2.50. So it's not a whole lot of money, but it ends up giving us a little bit extra with that extra $212.50 to operate the school district. So that in addition to the Homestead Act, an additional law that's in here, and what this Save Our Home Amendment is not cooperating today. So what this does is this caps out at the consumer price index increase percent. So the most a homesteaded property can ever go up in assessed value is just 3%. So on this example here, this $250,000 property, 3% of 250,000 to get, maybe just learn this to get into this. So I urge you to check it out and give it a try. I mean, even if you're just using your license for personal use, you've got
Sky is the limit.